Today on the Real Estate Crowdfunding Show, Syndication in the Digital Age at GowerCrowd.com, you're going to hear from Jamison Manwaring, who is co-founder at Neighborhood Ventures, a real estate developer sponsor in Arizona. I am Adam Gower, and for the last few years, I've been tracking and implementing best-of-class practices, watching and analyzing how the top real estate crowdfunding marketplaces and sponsors use crowdfunding to syndicate their real estate projects online. We were doing some research into which real estate syndicators were the most active on YouTube when Artyom, one of my analysts, pointed me to a video from a group I've never heard of before, Neighborhood Ventures. What makes these guys stand out so much is that they are not only doing a good job of digital marketing in general, but by putting video at the forefront of that strategy, they put themselves at the cutting edge of online syndication. If you'd like to see what an entire digital marketing strategy looks like in detail, so you can see how to build an investor acquisition system yourself, watch the whiteboard workshop that I put together for you on the podcast page for this episode at GowerCrowd.com. Here are some of the things that you're going to be learning about today. 2 ways to raise money for your real estate projects on Facebook, why raising money online is like dating, and why using video is essential for real estate syndicators, and a whole lot more. You can watch this entire podcast. Yes, it is recorded in video, as well as accessing the whiteboard workshop by going to the podcast page at GowerCrowd.com. So, how do you create authentic video content to educate real estate investors about you and your projects? Find out now in my conversation with Jamison Manwaring, co-founder at the real estate development company Neighborhood Ventures. Jamison, thanks so much for being on this podcast. I'm really thrilled to have you here. And I have to say that you are Neighborhood Ventures, or to be precise, Neighborhood.Ventures, is without doubt one of the most forward-thinking digital marketing sponsors that I've come across so far. I would love to hear about your background and how you came to decide to use digital marketing and social media to raise money for your real estate deals.
Yeah, thanks for having us on, and for the podcast that you're doing. I've listened to almost all the episodes, and it's great to have a hub of people who, and a collection of people who are thinking about the same thing, how you raise money online through crowdfunding. And so thanks for the stuff that you're putting together for all of us benefit from as well.
My pleasure. So go on, how did you start? Where did you, how did you come to that? I mean, it's not a natural thing. You're really one of the only guys out there doing it, and you're doing it really, really well. So tell me, what's the story behind that?
Well, so I come from a Wall Street background. I worked at Goldman Sachs in Salt Lake City after I graduated from University of Utah, and they transferred me to New York after a few years. And I did IPOs and was an equity analyst for software companies, emerging software companies that had unique solutions and were taking market share. And I was able to do several IPOs and work on the team several IPOs. One of those was LifeLock, which is kind of a security software, personal security software. And they did their IPO in 2012. And in 2015, they asked me to come out and join them and run their investor relations while they're institutional investors. And so I joined them late 2015, moved back out to Tempe, Arizona from New York. I was looking for a way to get out of New York, and planned to work with them for a long time. Really enjoyed my time there. After about a year and a half, we got acquired by Symantec, which is a large cybersecurity company. They own Norton Antivirus, and now own LifeLock. And we got that happened summer of 2017. Prior to that, I had bought a 10-unit Airbnb kind of motel hotel in my hometown, near my hometown in Idaho. My dad's a real estate broker, and he said, "Hey, I think you don't don't get too carried away on Wall Street and equities. You need to remember your base is real estate, and that's what he always taught me growing up. And I always liked real estate. So he had a project he showed me, and I did some numbers on it and really liked what the potential could be. I thought the downside risk was minimal, but I thought there could be really good potential. Ended up buying it and renovating it, and it did really well. And I just I enjoyed the process of a fixed asset rather than a stock, which I had been involved in for many years prior to that. And it just felt different as an investor to own a fixed asset. I really liked it. When LifeLock got acquired, about that same time, I sold the building in Idaho, and I ended up getting most of my equity paid out at LifeLock. And they only have one investor relations person, that's Symantec, so I moved on. And it gave me the opportunity to kind of reset. And I moved to Mexico for the summer. I got my green card in Mexico. I've considered retiring there, although that was short-lived for a few weeks. But I lived the summer there, and I renovated a beach property there, 7 units on the ocean in Puerto Penasco, Mexico, which is about 4 hours south of Phoenix. And through that process, I realized I wanted to do real estate going forward. I wanted to stay in that space. And my experience at Goldman, I had learned a lot about peer-to-peer lending and raising money online through these new innovative ways. And so I started researching more about crowdfunding and how that was working, and how the laws that were passed in 2012 had been impacting the business. And I became really clear that was how I wanted to move forward, is figure out some way to create a real estate investment company using crowdfunding. And that's, I started moving in that direction. And then importantly, I met my now business partner, who is a veteran apartment real estate broker in Phoenix. He's been here for almost 30 years. He's sold and been part of thousands of apartment transactions here. And he's a real estate guy at his core. And he was also interested in crowdfunding. And he has his company is called ABI Multifamily. They're a large broker in the Phoenix area, but he was interested in moving beyond that. And as he continued to have that company, which is the largest commercial broker in Arizona, they sell more apartment buildings than anyone else in Arizona. He wanted to start doing more sponsored projects, and he wanted to use crowdfunding also. So we were aligned in that way. So long wind up, but we met. He focuses on the real estate side. He finds the projects. He knows the market intimately. All our projects are off-market deals. We don't buy. They're from long-term clients of his.
You don't buy from brokers.
We don't buy from brokers.
The irony.
And then I do and focus on the crowdfunding and getting our message and broadening our audience with investors. So both of us were aligned in that, and we're committed to raising our capital primarily from non-accredited investors. He has a large Rolodex of wealthy folks. I do as well, from the East Coast hedge fund world. And it's a lot more fun working with non-accredited investors than it is, trying to make another couple million for someone who has a lot of millions. And that's just what we decided to do. We're more focused on that, and that's our mission, is to get more non-accredited investors involved. We do allow some accredited investors to participate. That's great, but our focus is the non-accredited market.
Right, and you're exclusively in Arizona, aren't you? Now you do. So tell me about what are the most important prongs of your social media or your content marketing strategy? What are the most important ones that you use?
For us, we started on Facebook because it has the most users in a geographic area who use it the most. And
so when you say you started on Facebook, what does that mean exactly? Was that advertising or posting or getting followers, or like how did you use Facebook?
We did paid ads, mostly specifically about our projects, and then some of the ads are about what we're doing, and then in general. And it's hard to do it all organically, but once you get a following, and we have, I don't know how many people on Facebook, several thousand who are following us now, then you can continue to grow that following more organically. But there's definitely an investment up front to build that out.
And what are the hardest parts of working on Facebook? I mean, it's easy to say we did some paid ads and we got followers, etc. But let's get into the weeds a little bit. So when you do a paid ad, you have to create content.
Yeah.
You have to create content or video and wording, and like there's a lot involved. So tell me a little about that and what the barriers were, if any, that you overcame.
We've had a few iterations of how we approached Facebook. So initially we were posting a lot, and at the time, the Facebook rules constantly change how their algorithm works, and so that's one of the challenges. Originally, the strategy had a lot to do with live content, because if you go to your Facebook news feed, at the time, Facebook was moving up that live content to get more viewers. And so if I did a live video and recorded it live and posted it immediately, I would get more viewers. So we did a bit of that initially.
And how did you feel about that? Let me ask you that. I mean, again, you make these things sound very casual. It's obvious why you're so good at it, but it's a big deal to turn your phone on and, all right, here we are.
It's aggravating because it's live TV.
Right. And
you watch it later and you're like, oh, why did I say that? Why are there so many ums and ahs? And that's the nature of the live. It's hard. So you have to make sure you know what you're going to say before you hit that go live button. Thankfully, some of that has been pulled back. The Facebook and Instagram still like the live content, but it doesn't get necessarily the priority that it used to, and that's constantly changing. So we have some folks that we work with that follow all of the algorithm changes. You really have two kind of approaches to Facebook. You can try to get leads. So let's say you're a local gym that's opening in a neighborhood. You can try to get people to see your ad and say, yeah, I'm interested in finding out more information about this gym that's opening. And that it's a direct response. And initially that's what we tried to do a lot of is, hey, here's this project, fill this little form out and we'll get you information. Or you can watch this webinar. That's one approach. And you can measure that really easy. You can say, okay, we spent $1,000, we got this many leads. We've gone away from that to more of a focus on our brand now. So what we realized is, and I always felt this from the beginning, is that this is a project or a product that is bought, not sold. So we're not trying to sell a membership at a gym. We're trying to educate folks. We're trying to help them get comfortable with who we are. We're building trust with them. We're helping them understand that we're experts in the field, understand what they're investing in, and then they'll invest when they're ready. So we've shifted away from that kind of direct response marketing more to the marketing that is focused on our brand and building that brand out.
Interesting. And so that means, you use the word educating. So tell me about that concept and what does that mean exactly?
So that is one of the biggest challenges to our business when you're going after a non-accredited investor is educating them on what a private real estate transaction looks like. And we've taken that on. We've said, we don't think it's as complicated as everyone would like to think it is. And that only, sophisticated accredited investors should participate. We can explain this in a way that is fully gives the details, but that isn't so complicated using the jargon, IRR and cap rate and equity return, those sorts of things are, make it sound more complicated than I think it is. But at the same time, these folks have not invested in a project like this. So helping them understand how it works, that, your money, one, is illiquid. When you invest in us, you can't call the next month and say, I need to get that $5,000 back. And that two, most of your return actually comes at the end when we sell the building. So there's a cash return that is generated from cash flow along the way, but your overall return is actually paid, most likely caught up at the end when the building's sold. So helping people understand that, helping them understand the drivers of an investment, what could drive the investment forward, what could be a risk and bring it back, and treating them like a investment adults that they are, and putting the information out there and letting them make the decision. But we don't shy away from talking around about the details, but we do it in a way that we think is more understandable than maybe some of that traditional jargon.
Okay, so how does telling that message on social media differ from telling somebody over lunch?
It's an intro on social media. So it's kind of like dating online, right? So some of the professional online daters in the audience here know that, you have a couple of good, sexy profile pictures. You tell a little bit about yourself, and then you say, then let's go to lunch and learn more. It's the same approach. Here is the bill. Here is the project. Here's why we think it's great. Here's an opportunity for you to learn more.
Ah, right. So there isn't actually an invitation to lunch. The invitation is to something else, isn't it? So tell me about that. What's that investor journey look like?
Most of the time, the first invitation is to watch something at home that is more detailed. So we have shorter videos, 30-second, that are more visual, and then they can watch a full-length video that might be 8 or 10 minutes that's more detailed. And then as they watch that video, we invite them to subscribe to our channel, to watch the next episodes. But we're not pushy trying to get them to buy today. It's just an invitation to continue to dialogue with us. And then as they do those things, we'll continue to invite them to further the relationship. So we have the next major call to action is to create an account on our website, which will give them access to our project, our portfolio of deals that are available. So they can now go in, see all the details, see our live interactive Q&A, see everything that's there. And as part of crowdfunding, everything has to be there. And that's what's great. It's all transparent. So if somebody asks a question, it's already put right there, and we've given the answer for everyone to see. So they can now go see that. Sometimes that's a little overwhelming, but they have access to it. And then we augment that with live meetups in our office on a regular basis, phone calls, or whatever other questions they have. But they can go as far as they want on that first date, to continue with the metaphor, or they can say, there might be somebody I want to keep talking with, and we're okay with either one.
That's really interesting. And you actually do live meetups. So that's kind of like what we're doing now, except you'll set a time and you'll say, investors, log on at this time, and we'll do a Q&A.
We actually, since we're in Phoenix, all our investors have to be Arizona residents.
Right.
And so we do live meetups in our office. and we have a taco truck and we have some beers, and they come
I see.
and meet us, and we give a little presentation, do a Q&A. We do record those and put them on live, and we have a lot of people that do that. But we have an advantage that we're here local, and we take advantage of that.
Very interesting. All right, so I'm dying to ask you this question. First of all, you do a lot of video. Actually, yeah, so many things I want to ask you. So actually what you mentioned was, and then we'll get into the video stuff. So what you mentioned was you invite, part of the investor journey is that you invite people to register on your website to learn more. So of course, when we first connected, and I have to tell you, it was one of my analysts that pointed you out to me. That's how I found you. The first thing I did was to register. And then very quickly, in quick succession, I got a series of emails, videos in them. It was phenomenal. Really, really excellent communication. So tell me about that. How does that work? And what's that process, right? Somebody registers, then what happens? Just behind the scenes.
Yeah. And again, I think it's important to focus on that we are targeting a non-accredited investor.
Okay.
So that can be a nurse, that can be a school teacher who's never done this before. And so we know that when they go on and create that account, they're ready to continue the relationship, but we want to bring them along slowly. So we have the first 10 days of after somebody's created an account, we have an email drip that is a slow educational process. First off, is an introduction to us, who we are, why we decided to do what we're doing, and then what crowdfunding is, where did it come from, how it works legally, how the structure is, and this is over a period of several days in that first 10-day journey. Then we get into more of the details. If we have a live project at the time, we'll send them that information. And then we'll let them know that if they want to come in and meet us at one of our meetups, they can do that. So it's it's kind of moving them along in the educational process.
Right, and you use video a lot, don't you? And that really, you stand out for that, actually. So how did that come about? And what were the, like, how do you do that? And what were the initial hurdles that you had to deal with?
Yeah, well, I'm a millennial, so
am I. Tell my wife I am too. I'm a late blooming millennial.
You're a millennial at heart, which matters most, right? So video is what I'm used to. So if somebody is a great company and they only have a website with text, even if they're a great company, I don't think they are, because they're not taking that next level. I expect to see video. I expect to see a YouTube channel and good content on there. And part of our customer demographic are millennials that want to invest in passive real estate investments. So we personally, I expect that out of a good company. And I also know the importance of the content. When I first started this journey, I watched a few videos of a couple of folks who were starting, and I was struck by one video, which was literally a guy at a conference table, and he had a camera set up and he talked for 30 minutes, and I thought, well, if that's the best people are doing right now, then there's a real opportunity to educate people in an entertaining way. And the beauty about real estate is, and in our projects, we renovate them. So it's visual, it's entertaining, just like the HGTV shows can be. And so we try to make it fun, entertaining, educational all at the same time.
Yeah, your videos are really good. So tell me about the actual production process, because it's, again, there's these, you talk about these things with casual ease, but you and I both know it's not so easy. So what is the process?
Well, I can't do it. I can't produce it. I know what I want it to be, the outcome to be, but we have a team of one guy makes documentary films. And I heard earlier today, somebody who makes documentary films is kind of like a poet. 50 years ago or a couple hundred years ago, we love them, but we don't pay them. And if you can find somebody in your local area who makes documentaries. They probably have some downtime pretty regularly. And if you can pay them something stable, it's helpful. And that's what I did. We've done here. I have a friend who has made some great documentaries, but in his downtime, he helps us.
Okay.
And then have another person who is kind of a social media video person. And it's been a focus, right? It's been, we knew we wanted to invest there, and finding the right folks to do it. Don't go hire, somebody who's never done it before or somebody who's new to it. You have to go to a younger crowd and know that if it's not something you're committed to, then don't do it, because it won't work out good. All right, we're committed to it. We believe in it, and we're going to invest in it. And they handle the production. We get together and we talk about our strategy and what we want to come across. But I let them do what they're good at.
So do they follow you around on a day-to-day basis or on certain day? No. So how do you actually organize that stuff?
It has to be more pre-planned. So some of the big social media people will have people follow them around all the time and try to capture everything. We plan it every week. So we say, okay, we have this happening this week. We have this happening this week. We need to do this. We need to set this up, and we plan it week to week. So they don't have to be with you all the time, especially at the start, right? Our guys are now getting more busy as we have more projects, but they don't have to be there all the time.
And to be clear, you plan your video recording schedule every week.
Yeah, and I also have my iPhone with me, and if something's happening that I think is interesting, I record it all. So just kind of like what you're doing with your podcast, you may not air this podcast tomorrow, right? You have a library of content that over the next several weeks you'll air stuff, maybe over the next several months, but people in our business should be collecting a library of content at all times. And, something funny happens or something crazy happens, record it. Maybe that would do well in your audience. The best videos aren't necessarily the highly produced videos.
Right.
I think there needs to be some of that, but some of the best stuff that really happens is just real life stuff that you capture.
It's really fascinating that you do that and that you think that way. You're right. You saw somebody and you thought, is this the best there is? You have the best that there is, actually. I mean, you really are. I can't think of any. There's a few people out there who are doing videos. Most of them are highly managed, scripted, highly educational. But the kind of stuff that you've put out is really very interesting. That's why I'm drilling down on it. So then there's also the process, once you've filmed it, of editing it and getting it up there. So tell me a little about, particularly, I see I've got your YouTube channel up here, and I've got a serious question for you about this. I'm fascinated by one or two videos that you've got. I'm dying to ask you this. Yeah. But what's the process then of production, and how long does that take? And actually, how long does it take of your time and your partner's time away from actually real estate?
It is, we take the real stuff that we're doing on a day-to-day basis and we say, let's capture it where before we might not have captured it. So we're not going out and doing production stuff only, because the audience can tell, and there's a lot of stuff, a lot of noise out there in media, on YouTube, on other platforms. If your stuff doesn't break through with some authenticity, with people don't like overproduced stuff, right? Now you can get overproduced stuff if you want to watch that on TV, but if you're thinking social media, it's more of interesting stuff, value added stuff. And I'm not there's people who do it a lot better than us that we continue to learn from, but we just say, okay, this is what we got going on this week. Let's capture it. Let's try to put it together. And then, we want to make sure that it's focused on education. And then we do have some videos that have nothing to do with our investors who may want to invest with us, but it's more educational. And those might be some of the videos you see on our site where we talk about a topic that might be totally, might only be interesting to somebody who is doing an Airbnb in their backyard. Right. They'll never invest with us, and we're totally okay with that. We just want to spread some of the information that we've learned, some of the value that we've gained, and share it with other folks.
Yeah, like how to make an Airbnb bed. That's really cool. Want to make that.
And if you've ever done if you've ever done an Airbnb property, you know that figuring out how to do the bed is a lot of people Google it. How do I make a good bed? And we want them to find us. Yeah. Right? So that's we don't necessarily think everything we have to put out there is just for investors who want to invest with us.
All right. So now you've got this incredible machine where you're making all this content, authentic and educational content every single week. How are you getting it out there?
Well, and I would say we're really early, Adam. I think we have I wouldn't call it a machine yet, but the gears are turning a bit, but we're real early. So I think we have a long ways to go, but thanks for the feedback. But so we have a base of an audience that we've built up over the couple of years, and it's really hard to build that up. So it's kind of a chicken or egg. Do you build the audience first, or do you put out good content first, or do you put out good if you put out good content, maybe the audience will come. It's hard, but I think you have to figure out how do you get the plane off the ground a little bit so that you have a couple thousand folks who are watching your stuff. And then once you do, you have to make the commitment that your content is always going to be good from the get-go, authentic, informative, value-added. And then you say, okay, now that we are doing that, we have people watching this, and we need to commit to growing that audience with the good content. And I feel like that's kind of where we're at now. We have a base of people who are in our audience, but we want to keep growing that audience. And you only do that by having good content.
And are you doing that by, I noticed that a lot of your videos are actually very short, right? 2-3 minutes, some are even less than that. So are you distributing these on social media as organic distribution, or are you using it as advertising, or both?
Some of both, but mostly organic. You can see on some of our videos, they have many, many more thousands of views than some of the other ones. The ones that have a lot of views, the tens of thousands, those are typically because we paid a bit to get them.
Okay. Yeah, I was actually going to ask you that you've got one that stands out, 22,000 views just a month ago.
Yeah.
And that's, a real standout. Most of them are not in that range. So I presume that was.
And there's a benefit when you do start paying a little bit to get in front of people, then they share it more. And so there is an exponential benefit if it's good content versus if it's not.
So do you send it out on different channels though, Jamison? Which channels do you like to use?
We focus on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. Our email list is really important. So a lot of people are comfortable with email, but they may not follow you on YouTube or Facebook. But if you send them an email, they'll watch a video there. So that's very important. We do share it on LinkedIn, and are starting to do more on Instagram.
Really?
Yeah.
Instagram because you're looking at the non-accredited younger investor. Is that right?
Yeah, and a lot of professional millennials are on there, skews toward female audience that have money, and they're on Instagram a lot. And so you can get some amazing results on Instagram if you do things in a certain way. And we've experienced that in some of our efforts. But I think the beginning is Facebook is where most people are. And then we focus on building the audience across platforms. So we don't just put our videos on YouTube. We put them right on Facebook so that natively people on Facebook will see them. So the video you saw there has 22,000 views on YouTube, but it has probably double that on Facebook. So on our Facebook page. So so if you think about if you wanted to do what we're doing now, 20 years ago, you had to go convince a local TV channel to give you a show on the weekend.
Right.
Give us a 30 minutes on Sunday morning.
Yeah.
And we actually looked at that. We went and talked to them and pursued that. And they all said, you know what, we think what you're doing is great. And if you want to pay us, we'll put you on.
That's right.
But you don't need to anymore.
Right.
You can just go put these on these channels and you will get a better audience, a more organic audience that you own, you control, and it's free.
So incredible. Yeah.
I think it's a huge opportunity, and the big barrier to entry is good content and giving yourself time to know that it takes time to build an audience in anything, and you got to be committed to it.
It does take time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the point, right? You're not going to put up a website, make a video, and suddenly money's going to start pouring in through the...
Doesn't work. No, and I work with a nonprofit that I'm trying to help them to do some crowdfunding, and they have no audience. They have a bunch of people who love what they do, but they haven't captured them. And so we're going to put a crowdfunding fundraise for a great project they're doing in the Dominican Republic to build a well for a town that has no clean water. We need to raise $50,000. But I said, helping them understand, look, just by putting that out on the web, it isn't going to get funded.
Right.
We have to commit to building an audience and keeping that audience with good content. And then over time, we put the projects up and they will fund them. But it is an investment over time that you have to commit to.
Jamison, honestly, I could talk to you for hours. I'm absolutely fascinated by what you're doing. I really do think you are a true leader in this industry. And you and I have talked about you guys going nationally. My audience is national, so they're going to be frustrated that they can't, they're going to want to move to Arizona just to be able to have a piece of your deal. So
we get to move on down, and you'll have a hot summer, but it's great dressing.
Hot and dry. But when you do go national, we'll do this again. All right. Yeah. Let me wrap up, because like I said, I could talk forever with you, but let's wrap up with 3 lightning questions. As the term I just heard, I usually call sign-off questions, but quick questions. And one of them, actually, the first one, dovetails into what you were just talking about. So what's the most important thing that a real estate developer should keep in mind when he's thinking about syndicating real estate online? What's the most important thing they should keep in mind?
I think you need to have an audience that's already in place for that to be successful. So if you have several hundred people who would help you in that syndication, and you want to add a few more, then I think you could be successful. If you're trying to start from scratch, it's really challenging. So I think you want to, keep that in mind, because that first deal is the hardest. In our case, it took us 6 months to fund our first project, and we didn't allow our rich friends to invest in it. We wanted it to be more organic. The second project took us 60 days, and then our last project took us 3 weeks, because we built up that investor base. So that first deal, to get that thing off the ground and into flight, is the hardest. So try to figure out where are you going to help juice that. Pools of investors, people who you've worked with before, real estate investment associations, whatever, that could help you get that first one over the line, and then it gets easier from there.
Second question. What's been the hardest lesson you've learned online personally?
You don't read negative comments online because there's trolls out there who have when we put videos out, we always get negative comments about our looks or just these crazy things. That is the world, and that is the online world, and you don't take that personally. I think the other important one is you have to assume that everybody that once you put something online, everybody is going to see that, including people who are your regulators, people who could give you a hard time. If you're in construction, people who issue permits, etc. You're a public company now. That goes in the public domain, and there's additional scrutiny when you're a publicly owned company.
Very interesting. Final question, Jamison. Key daily habits to be successful online. What are yours?
Replying to all of the comments, all of the questions that you get, because you want people to know that you're not just a robot, that a robot isn't putting this up and now it's on auto and they're not going to hear it. You want to really engage. So if they ask a question, which they will, you answer it, timely. And now this becomes real, and people say, okay, these guys are actually online. They're not just faking it. They're there. So you got to commit the time to daily make sure comments are replied to when they send you a private message, you reply to them. And the great thing is they will reply there, and they'll communicate there more than they would in person or over email. So that's great. You want that communication. You want to know what people are asking. The harder part is you'll get more of it. So you need to make sure that either you or someone else is watching that.
Jamison, what a tremendous pleasure. Thanks so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Adam. It's been great.
That was Jamison Manwaring, co-founder at the real estate development company Neighborhood Ventures out of Arizona. Video really is a great tool for you to use if you want a successful digital real estate crowdfunding campaign. It's a tough step to take, though, to create video. Your best bet is to start with media that you're most comfortable with, like articles, blogs, audio, or video, and just go with your strengths. If you want to do video, but don't want to be on camera, use PowerPoint slides and talk over those. As long as you're bringing value to the viewer and moving them along in their investor journey with you, anything you produce is better than not producing anything at all. Okay? To find out exactly how to put together an entire investor acquisition system so you can use digital marketing and social media to raise capital for your real estate deals, go to the podcast page for this episode at gowercrowd.com, where you can access a whiteboard workshop where I walk you through the entire system. Again, that's the podcast page at gowercrowd.com. Hey, thanks for listening, and thank you, Jamison Manwaring, co-founder of Neighborhood Ventures, for spending your time with me today. That's all for this episode. I'll see you next time, and for now, this is Dr. Adam Gower signing off.